Hello everyone. Today we are diving into one of the most important ideas in all of science. I welcome you all to a new chapter in our biology journey. So let's look at the entire blueprint of life. This unit is called Organization and Maintenance of the Organism. It's about how millions of tiny microscopic bricks come together to build a living, breathing individual. So students, when we talk about organization, we mean the hierarchy of life. Think of it like a massive project, a very big project. You start with the smallest unit, which is the cell. These cells specialize and group into tissues, which then build organs, which finally coordinate into systems. So nothing in your body happens by accident. It is a perfectly ordered team of teams working toward one goal, that is keeping you alive. So first of all, we shall study cell structure and organization. So before going forward, we should know about what is the cell theory. Before the cell theory, before the identification or recognition of cells, people thought living things were just single masses of matter. But this theory changed everything. It taught us that every living thing is actually a complex system made of tiny individual units, which are cells. So basically, there are three fundamental rules which you need to remember. These define what it means to be alive. So first of all is the building blocks. Think of cells like Lego bricks. Every single living organism on earth, whether it is a tiny bacterium you can't see or a massive blue whale in the ocean, is made of one or more cells. If it is alive, it is made of cells. And secondly is the basic unit. Second core principle is the basic unit. The cell is not just a part of life. It is the smallest unit of life. It is the tiniest thing that can do everything needed to stay alive, like eating, which means metabolism, and making copies of itself, that is reproduction. So, below the level of a cell, life as we know, it just does not exist. And finally is biogenesis. It sounds very fancy, but it just means that all cells come from pre-existing cells. That is a theory, that all cells come from pre-existing cells. They do not just pop out of nowhere or appear by magic. They are created when a parent cell divides through processes like mitosis or meiosis. We shall study these processes in our next lectures. Okay, so remember, building blocks, basic units, and pre-existing cells. That is the foundation of biology, and if you will keep it remembered, it will help you a lot in this subject, that is biology. This is for your memorization, okay, to remember it. Now you might be wondering, why do we need to study this theory? It is not just a list of rules, okay. Uh, Cell theory, in fact, this is the framework that helps us understand how a human body or any living thing actually works. It connects two major concepts. Okay, the first one is biological organization. Okay, it explains that life is built in levels, like a hierarchy. It starts with a single cell, like here you can see this hierarchy here. It starts with a single cell, which is a group of similar cells make our tissue. Okay, then tissue work together to form an organ, like your heart, your kidney, your lungs. Okay, these are your organs. Okay, and these organs work together in a system, and all those systems make up the organism, which is you. Secondly, because of this, we realize something very important. The health of a whole animal or plant depends entirely on the health of its individual cells. If the cells are not functioning properly, functioning correctly, the organs would not work and the organism can get sick. So everything starts at the cellular level. And second concept is structure and function. Mean it connects structure to function. In biology, the way something is built, that is its structure, it tells you exactly what its job, that is its function. For example, take a nerve cell. It looks very different from a skin cell. Why? Because a nerve cell needs to carry electrical signals from your brain all the way down to your toes. Its structure is long and thin because its function is communicating over long distances. So when you look at a cell, ask yourself, how does its shape help to do its job? So that is the heart of biology. And here is an exam note for you, that if you are asked why a virus is considered non-living in relation to cell theory, we have studied virus in our previous lecture, that is chapter 1. Okay, that is just a recall of that chapter, that if you are asked that why virus is something considered as non-living in relation to the cell theory, so remember that virus is a acellular, that is not made of cells and cannot reproduce without a host cell, which technically places them outside these core principles. So till now we have talked about what all cells have in common, but now we need to look at how they differ. Even though all living things are made of cells, not all cells are built the same way. Scientists categorize cells into two main groups based on one very important question, that is, does it have nucleus? Okay, so these two groups are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The main thing that separates them is their internal structure, specifically how they store their DNA and whether they have specialized rooms inside them called organelles. So here is a quick tip to help you remember the difference in your exams. Differentiate between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So prokaryotes sounds like no, as in no nucleus and no membrane bound organelles. Okay, and secondly, eukaryotes sounds like U2, as in they do have a nucleus and they do have complex organelles. So simply you can remember that prokaryotes have no nucleus and eukaryotes have nucleus. That is very easy for you to remember. So in our next few slides, we are going to look at each of these groups that in detail to see exactly what is happening inside them. But for now, just remember, it all comes down to the internal structure and that central command center, that is the nucleus. So let's start with the simplest form of life, the prokaryotes. The name actually tells you their story, that is in Greek, pro means before and karyon means nucleus. You can say that prokaryote is a combination of two Greek words, that is pro and karyon. Pro means before and karyon means nucleus. It means before nucleus. So these are literally before nucleus cells. They are ancient, simple, but these are very efficient. So the genetic material is not enclosed in a membrane. It means there is no nucleus. But the biggest rule for prokaryote is that there is no nucleus. That genetic material is not locked away in a safe. Instead, it's just one single coiled loop of DNA floating freely in the cytoplasm. We call this area the nucleoid. So think of it like a messy desk where the instructions are just lying right there in the middle of the room. That here is, you can say that you can see this is the nucleoid region. Next one is lack of complexity. Prokaryotes also lack membrane-bound organelles. This means they do not have specialized parts like mitochondria or chloroplasts. In a prokaryote, all the chemical reactions of life happen just floating around in the main room of the cell. So they do not have separate rooms for separate jobs. However, they do have ribosomes. Okay, you can in this slide you can see there. Okay, ribosomes. They do have ribosomes. Every cell needs to make proteins to survive. But even here, the prokaryote keeps it very simple. The ribosomes are smaller than ours. Scientists call them 70S ribosomes. The S is just a unit of size. So just remember that prokaryotic ribosomes are the smaller and the simpler versions. The most common real-world example of a prokaryote is bacteria, whether it is the bacteria in your yogurt or the ones that make you sick. They all follow this simple one-room design, which is shown in this slide. Okay, here it is. This is the design of a prokaryote of a bacteria. Okay, they are proof that you do not need to be complex, to be incredibly successful at surviving. Now we move on to the eukaryotes. Okay, this is a complex structure in comparison to prokaryotes. This name comes from two words, that is you, which means true. Okay, these are two Greek words. Okay, you and karyon. You means true and karyon means nucleus. It means they have a true nucleus. So unlike the simple prokaryotes that we just saw in the previous slide, these cells have a true nucleus. This is a dedicated command center where the DNA is kept safe behind a double membrane we call the nuclear envelope. Okay, so you can see that here is that a nuclear complex. Okay, here is a nucleus, and this is the envelope. This is the double membrane. Okay, this is a protective sheet. So the first thing you will notice is its size. Eukaryotic cells are much larger, typically 10 to 100 micrometers. So to put that in perspective, they can be up to 100 times bigger than a typical bacterium. But how do they manage to be so big without becoming a mess? The answer is their organization. They have specialized rooms, which we call organelles. So eukaryotes are highly organized into specialized rooms called membrane-bound organelles. Just like a house has a kitchen for cooking and a bedroom for sleeping and a study room for studying, these cells have mitochondria, which is the power plant that generate energy. They have chloroplast that is found in plants. These act like solar panels to make food, and they have endoplasmic reticulum. It serves as the cell's internal transport system. So because everything has its own space, the cell can perform many different complex jobs all at the same time. This internal organization is exactly what allows eukaryotic cells to grow large and form complex life forms, while prokaryotes are usually single-celled. Eukaryotes make up the diverse world of plants, animals, and fungi, as we studied in chapter 1. Okay, so if you can see an organism with your naked eye, it is almost certainly made of these complex eukaryotic cells. These are the examples. And once again, this is a recall that remember the pro no rule. Okay, here is you do rule. That means pro means no and u means true. So in prokaryotes there is no nucleus, and eukaryotes they have a true nucleus. To wrap up our look at the cell types, let's look at them side by side. Okay, by memorizing this table, this is very easy for you to differentiate between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. This table is a fantastic summary that you should definitely keep in your revision notes, as it highlights the major differences examiners love to ask about. First of all is size and DNA. So first look at the size. Okay, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell size. Prokaryotic cell size just only 0.1 to 5 micrometer, while eukaryotic cells are larger enough that they range between 10 to 100 micrometer. Next, notice the DNA. In a prokaryote, the DNA is circular. Okay, the DNA is a circular, one big loop. But in a eukaryote, like us, like humans, animals, birds, the DNA is linear. Okay, you can find it here. DNA is linear, meaning it looks like long straight strands or chromosomes. The next one is organelles and the nucleus. Okay, as we have discussed, the nucleus and organelles are the biggest giveaways. So prokaryotes have none, means there is no nucleus, no mitochondria, nothing fancy. But eukaryotes, however, they are packed with specialized rooms like mitochondria, like chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, but how they decide? Finally, uh, how do they make more of themselves? Prokaryotes use a very simple process called binary fission. The cells basically just splits in half. Eukaryotes are more complex. They use mitosis for growth or meiosis to create sex cells like sperms and eggs. So whether it is a simple bacteria or a complex human cell, both are incredible examples of biological engineering. In our next lesson, means in coming slides, we will zoom in even further to look at the specific parts inside these cells. So see you. So let's move on to our next slide. Here you should remember one thing, students. Okay, this you should not miss it here. That both have cell membranes, means prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells both have cell membranes and ribosomes. The cell wall in prokaryote is made of peptidoglycan. Okay, this is a major difference of the cell wall between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. The cell wall of prokaryotic cell is made of peptidoglycan. Okay, this is peptidoglycan, whereas in plants it is made of cellulose. This is a common trick question in your exam, and you should remember that. Now, if you look at a complex living thing like yourself or a giant oak tree, you are not just a random clump of cells stuck together. You are a highly organized masterpiece. In biology, we call this a structural hierarchy. As we move up from a single cell to a whole organism, the complexity increases, allowing for what we call the division of labor. It all starts at the first level, okay, that is the cells. These are your basic functional units like a single muscle cell. But a single cell cannot do much on its own. So we move to level 2, that is tissue. So a tissue is a group of similar cells working together for one shared job. Okay, remember it, that tissue is a group of similar cells doing the same job. For example, millions of muscle cells work together as muscle tissue to create a contraction. Level 3 is the organ. This is where it gets very interesting, that an organ is made of different types of tissues working together. Okay, organ is made of different types of tissues working together. So think about like your stomach. Your stomach is not just a muscle. It also has nerve tissue to tell it when to move and glandular tissue to produce acid. All these different tissues team up to perform one big function, that is digestion. And then is our level 4, okay, that is organ system. This is a collection of different organs that have related goals. For example, your stomach does not work alone. It works with the intestines, the liver, and the esophagus to form the digestive system. Other examples include your circulatory system or your respiratory system. And the last level, that is level 5, this is the organism. This is the complete living entity. It is the result of all those systems, digestive, nervous, skeletal, working in perfect harmony. So, from a single cell to a whole person, this organization is what makes life possible. And on these pictures, you can easily memorize the hierarchy of these 5 levels of our organization, either in plants or in animals. Here you can see that this is single cell. Okay, same type of cells, similar types of cells form a tissue. Okay, but in organ, different types of tissues take part. Means an organ is a collection of different type of tissues, and an organ system, that is the combination, that is the collection of different types of organs, and different type of organ system, when they combine, then an organism, that is a complete living entity, that is formed. And similar case is in plants. We have looked at how life is organized, but now let's ask why. Which is the most important question, that why did life evolve to be this complex instead of just staying as single simple cells? It comes down to three main advantages. The first one is division of labor. That is the first reason. Think of a for example, I'm just giving you an example to make you understand about it. That think of a big company. You have one department for accounting, one for marketing, and another for shipping. Multicellular organisms work the same way because we're organized into systems. Our body can perform many complex tasks simultaneously. Our respiratory system is busy exchanging gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide, while at this exactly same time, our circulatory system is transporting nutrients to our toes. So everyone has a job, has a dedicated job, and everyone does it at once. The second reason is efficiency. In biology, a jack of all trades is usually a master of none. So a single cell trying to do everything is not very fast or effective. However, a specialized cell like a red blood cell is perfectly designed for just one job because it only has to do one thing. It can do it much better and much faster than a general purpose cell could. Finally, this hierarchy is what allows for size and complexity. A single-celled organism can only grow so big before it struggles to get oxygen or food to its center. But because we have specialized systems to transport resources like glucose and oxygen deep into our bodies, we can grow to be meters tall. Without this organization, large-scale life like trees, elephants, and humans, they simply cannot exist. So organization is not just being tidy. It is about being efficient, specialized, and large. And that here concludes our look at the building blocks of life. So make sure to review these levels for your assessment, which will be at the end of this chapter. So here is an exam tip for you that when defining tissue or organ in an exam, always use the phrase working together. That is very interesting for you to memorize this term working together. Examiners look for this specific terminology to award you higher marks. So my dear students, to finish our lesson of today, let's look at how this organization actually appears in nature. This is a quick recap of our today lecture. We have talked about the theory, cell theory, but let's look at real world examples in both animals and plants. And this table will surely help you visualize the leap from a single cell to a whole living being. So levels, if we talk about level 1 and 2 from cells to tissues, so at the cellular level, that is the cell is the basic unit of life. An animal might have a muscle cell designed for movement, while a plant has a palisade cell packed with chloroplasts for photosynthesis. When these cells group together into tissues, these muscle cells, okay, they can become nervous or muscle tissue. But those palisade cells, they can become mesophyll tissue. Then is level 3, okay, that is an organ. So in an animal, a familiar organ is the heart. It is made of different kind of tissues, that is muscle, nerve, and connective tissues. And similarly in a plant, the leaf is actually an organ. It is a structure made of different tissues like the epidermis and mesophyll, all working together to make food for the plant. And then level 4 and 5, that is systems and organism. Moving up to systems, animals have complex networks like the circulatory system, and the plants have system too, like shoot system. That in shoot system includes the stem, leaves, and flowers. These all work together to support the plant and capture sunlight. And finally, all these systems come together to create the organism, whether it is a human walking around or a sunflower in a garden. And this is the story of life, from the tiniest cell to the most complex organism. I'm very hopeful that this lecture helped you understand the incredible structure of the living world. Do not forget to review these images, these tables, these diagrams, and I will see you in the next video where we shall zoom inside the cell, plant cell structure and animal cell structure and their functions to look at organelles. Okay, so happy staying. Do not forget to subscribe and like this video. Okay, and in next lesson you will surely understand about the basic cell structures and the function of different organelles inside those cells. So see you tomorrow. Okay, goodbye.